Okay, good morning and welcome to Guided Meditations and More. My name is Ade Richardson, and this is normally at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, daily guided meditation. But as most of you know, I've been offering, hosting interviews with various types of people who join us and share a little bit of their story. So today I have the great pleasure to have with us life coach Vuyanzi. Welcome, Vuyanzi. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I thought we'd begin. I'm just going to read your short bio, a short bio. Vuyanzi is a certified life career executive coach. She is the host of the Black Lead-In Ladies on Purpose podcast. She is the co-author of 4 books. And can we talk a little bit about that? Just wanted to find out where people could get those books. 2 of which are international bestsellers. Life coach Vuyanzi is the owner of the Onyx Channel, the Black Experience on Exposure on-demand TV, launching this fall. So welcome again, and just excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Me too.
We met through a mutual friend, Cecilia Waterman Santiago, and she speaks really highly of you, and I'm glad she pointed me in your direction. So you and I are friends on Instagram, and I've been watching some of your videos, and one of the things that really attracted me to you and why I wanted to have this interview is because you say a lot of great things, but it's more than that. Is you embody this authenticity. This you have this feeling of you just seem like you feel very comfortable within your own skin and just being who you are and expressing that fully. And for someone like me and many others who may be still on that journey, struggling with that, it's something that I thought, for selfish reasons, I have to have you on and learn about your journey, see how what obstacles you came against, and how you got to where you are now. So it's a pleasure to have you here. And the topic is new beginnings, which is fitting because you are embarking on a new beginning. and enough of me. Let's actually start at the beginning. Like, where did you grow up?
Yeah, so thank you for having me here. I am excited to be here. This is my first interview on the African side. Yay! So it's in the annals of history right now, Ade. You've just made history right here. Thank you. So where did I grow up? I grew up actually in Rockland County, New York. For the first 14 years of my life, I lived in Piermont, New York, a small village that sits on the Hudson River. In fact, some may call it Piermont on the Hudson. And I grew up with my grandparents. So let me just explain this. The reason I have older sisters who didn't necessarily grow up with my grandparents. I did because my family, my parents separated when I was just a few months old, and eventually they divorced. And so my grandparents said, why don't we raise the baby? I'm the baby. Why don't we just take the baby because you have those other kids. And so therefore that's where I was for the majority of my childhood. Later on, I went to Teaneck, New Jersey. I moved to Teaneck, New Jersey, where the rest of my family lived, and that's in Bergen County. And this town and this village, they're no more than about, I think, 13 to 15 miles apart. So that's where I grew up in New York, Rockland County, New York, and in Bergen County, New Jersey, the majority of my life. And really, it would come full circle because I just moved from the very town that I grew up in. So the village, I should say, was Piermont. I left when I was 14. I came back when I was, reverse the numbers, 41. And I stayed for 6 years till I was 47. And now I have left. So it's funny how it really came full circle, because there was a point in my life that I'd say, oh, I'd never go back to Piermont. But I did.
Cool. And you know, where along, so what sparked your desire, like what along your journey in life lit that fire to pursue this inner search? Because I'm sure that that was part of it, was your own self-awareness. I know you talk about, I think, the three pillars, you know, and number one being the self-awareness. And so what kind of lit that desire? What in your life prompted you to turn the attention inward? You know, many of us are, the attention's outward, you know, looking out into the world and referencing the external world to reference how we should feel about ourselves or who we are, you know. And how did you look beyond that by, you know?
So I'm going to start off with one single word. And that word, believe it or not, leaning close, is Amway. If anyone has ever heard of Amway, the product, a lot of people may think of it as the cleaning products. Back in the day, it was it probably still is, I don't know that much about it anymore, but a multi-level marketing company. Now you may say, what the heck does a multi-level marketing company like Amway have to do with your self-awareness? Because it was when I joined it that I learned about this thing called self-development. Never heard of that. Never had I heard of it. They used to say to us, listen to these tapes. Yes, I'm dating myself. Okay, tapes. They were the actual tapes. Listen to these tapes. You know, read these books. These books are all about how to be better, like inside. They weren't really about how to, because the thing was, we weren't reading the books to build our outside business from the outside. We were building our businesses from here first, and then therefore able to build whatever we were building outside. So that actually was my first introduction to this thing, that to start investing in myself, to start becoming aware of myself. And it hasn't stopped since then. So that may have happened, honestly, I'm trying to think about when that first happened, probably around 2005, I want to say, when I first got introduced to that. And I haven't stopped that quest. And I'll use the word quest for self-awareness since. Why? Because I believe as long as that we're on this earth, there is an evolution that's happening, right? So you see me as, you know, like a confident person. However, the buck doesn't just stop here. I'm not like, thanks, Ade, I am confident. You know, I don't need to do anything else. You know, it's not like that. I know that there's still things coming up for me. Listen, there's been 47 years of living right here, right? So S has to come up. I won't curse, but I'll say S has to come up sometimes and has to be dealt with, but everything doesn't come up at one time. So it is that ever evolving process of knowing that I will evolve. And sometimes when I evolve, I might get some help to do that, but it started off then from Amway and actually taking it here. I just want to take a moment, because I'm seeing on my page, some of my folks are saying hello. And I want to say thank you to those people who are, some of these people from New York and New Jersey, who are tuning in. And I just wanted to say that, sorry, because I'm seeing so many comments coming up and it makes me very warm and happy inside.
No, that's great. And if anyone has questions, please feel free, you know, let them know. Questions. You're okay with taking questions from people if they?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Oh, good, okay. So yeah, so it sounds like, you know, was it Amway? it sounds like you started to learn about the importance of having a good foundation. Like with any house that we have, any structure we want to build, we got to work on the foundation. So it sounds like that inner work, that inner development, starting from the bottom up, or else anything we build on top of that is not going to be, very secure. And so, so, so where did you go next after, the that experience? Where did that take you?
Oh my God. Oh my God, Ade. I'm going to be telling, and I feel in my heart, I know this is going to be the story that I tell because the next part is so important. And I just had an interview with someone who's tuned in right now, Rona, on her podcast. And I told this story, and I'm going to tell this story for everyone watching. So, Amway, at this point, we're in 2005, let's say.
Yeah.
And Amway has taught me how to become self-aware, to become self-aware, personal development, and how to invest in myself. And also what happened was being a part of that. And I see Rona said she made no money in her experience. I made no money either, but this thing that I got is, this is priceless. This is priceless, right? So then what happens is I started getting this, oh gosh, I don't know what to call it. It was just something that it was now looking at what I was doing through not just the linear place that I looked at it. So let me explain. I was a teacher. In 2000, from 1999 to 2006, I was a middle school teacher in Teaneck, New Jersey. So all of a sudden, this self-awareness made me start seeing something. It made me start seeing that I didn't necessarily want to be in my career until I retire. Now, you may say, I mean, okay, that's no big deal, but you have to understand, a teacher in New Jersey, I can't speak for any other teachers around the nation, but what I can say, a teacher in New Jersey, quite frankly, makes good money, okay? A teacher in New Jersey, after 3 years, I mean, if you, as long as you don't like hit a child or abuse someone, you pretty much get tenure. Ade, you can stay there until you're crusty and dusty, and you can stay as the teaching. I'm just trying to lay this foundation because I want you to understand I was in a secure position. However, this awakening, oh my gosh, yes, oh my God, thank you, Lord. This awakening came up. And it shook me up in such a way that when I entered into my 2005 into 2006 school year, I said one thing to myself. I didn't share it with my colleagues. I said, this is going to be my last year teaching. Wow. This is important to know because I had no idea what that meant. It wasn't because I hated it, but I knew I was done. I felt so constrained or constricted by the four walls of teaching. I love the kids. I had some great kids, great parents. Shout out to the parents who are watching. But I had some great kids, great parents. But I knew I wasn't going to stay there. And that was the genesis of the change in my life that would even lead to now. And I want to say this, if you don't mind, can I just continue on with the very important piece of the story? Is that okay?
Yes, Ade? Please.
Okay, so I say this is my last year of teaching. And I'm going to try not to cry with this part. I love my students. I'll tell you that my parents, when I say my parents, my students' parents, really especially the 8th grade, they loved me too. And I'm not saying that to be boastful. I'm saying that as a fact. So for instance, in the parent-teacher conference, I had a student teacher that was with me, right? So she was there that night. What is parent-teacher conference about? You go, you sit down with the child's teacher, blah, 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 and then you go away. I just remember every single one, but maybe there was one or two who didn't. I had back-to-back parents. All the 8th grade parents that came in, you know what they did, Ade? They embraced me. They literally would hug me. They literally hugged me. Everyone kept hugging me, and I had to look at my student teacher, and I had to say, look, this is not the norm. Don't expect hugs from your parents when you start doing this.
Yeah.
When you start doing this on your own, don't expect hugs. So I'm just trying to paint the picture that it was beautiful. But I know as the year progressed, I was, you know, when it's time to go, so you do become restless. And I
Yeah.
was becoming restless, and I started applying for a job. And then this opportunity came. Now, here's what starts to happen really quickly. An opportunity came for TD Ameritrade, go figure, as a corporate trainer, left teaching to be a corporate trainer. It would start before the school year would end. In fact, it would make my last day the Friday before Memorial Day weekend, you know, that 3-day weekend that we already also have, which was around my birthday too. It would make that Friday my last day, and Tuesday, the following Tuesday, I would start at TD Ameritrade. Let me explain. To leave the school year before it's over, that's like a real faux pas. That doesn't look good at all.
Yeah.
I felt guilt. I knew it was something I had to do, Ade, but I felt guilt. I'm like, I love these kids. I hate the fact that I have to leave them like this, right? I kept feeling guilty, but I knew I had to do what I had to do. I couldn't stay in this place where I was miserable. And it was, what does the Alchemist say, right? In the Alchemist, it says, when you desire a thing, the universe conspires to help you. I believe that God has created this universe in such a way that it can conspire to help you.
Yeah.
And my guilt and my shame, one day I walked around with it. I didn't tell anyone. And one day I walked in, and my principal said this to me. She looked at me. I wasn't walking in the office to talk to her, but she looked at me and she said, can you come in the office for a second? And I walked into the office, and she went behind her desk, and she looks and she says this to me. She says, I hope you don't feel guilty or any shame for leaving before the end of the school year. The person who has replaced you is a wonderful man, and he's going to do just fine taking over your place. That was God creating, that was literally God using the principal to speak to me, because I felt such guilt for leaving my students, yet I couldn't not do what I knew I was supposed to do. Yeah. Furthermore, on top of that, Ade, that young man that she spoke about that would take over my place. Well, fast forward to that weekend. This is crazy. I pick up our local newspaper, our Sunday paper, which was big. I don't know if they still make big Sunday papers with the comics and everything.
Yeah.
On the front cover, the first page above the fold of that, it was called the Bergen Record at the time, or the Record, is a picture of the guy who was taking over my position for teaching. Why was this picture there? Not because he had committed any crime, but he was this outstanding citizen who was a refugee from a West African country, and they highlighted him for his excellence. Wow. So my position was being taken over by someone who locally had been recognized as an excellent person. So this, you may say, well, what does this have to do with this? But this was my alarm clock of destiny was going off. And I couldn't hit. If I would have passed up, I see my internet is getting unstable. I hope you can still hear me.
Yeah,
if I would have passed up that opportunity, okay. If I would have passed up that opportunity, I don't know that you and I would be speaking right now. I don't know that I would have been a life coach. But instead, when my alarm clock of destiny woke, for me, it was saying, these walls are too small. I can't stay here anymore. When I answered it, that's when things began to fall in place. I know that was a big long-winded story, but it's really my first time saying yes to the alarm clock of destiny, to start on the path that I believe, I'll say, the path that led me to where I'm sitting in Nairobi, Kenya at this moment.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And that story encapsulates so many lessons, so many teaching moments in that story. And maybe we can break some of them down for those who may be getting messages and may be ignoring it. You know, sometimes we tend to seek the brain tends to seek certainty. It's just the way the brain is set up. It wants to know what's going to happen next. And, as a way, it's so tied into the survival mechanism. But it's not always, in our best interest, because we're not in any danger. But, this most of the times when this is activated, such as taking a chance with going for a new opportunity. So what would you say to someone, first of all, how to listen for those messages? That's one thing. How do you know that? I mean, you obviously just knew. It sounds like you just knew in your gut. What would you tell someone, that says, well, I don't hear anything. Only thing I hear is these old tapes that I've been conditioned to hear. I got to get up. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to put one foot in front of the other, go to work, put the food on the table, be this way, be that way. And they've kind of drowned out that small voice or that other voice that might be trying to give us messages. How do we make ourselves available for that?
God, oh my gosh, that's such a great question. So many things came up when you asked this. So the first thing, I'm going to actually start with the last thing that I said. How do we begin? Everyone who's watching, to begin with one word. One word. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. I say that one of the things in what my coaching, what I do is help the women to amplify their intuitive connection or amplify their God connection with their livelihood. Amplify it. But you have to start off with a yes. What does yes do? When I say yes, and recent, like usually when I wake up every morning, I may say something like a yes. It may be yes, or it may be thy will be done. But what you're doing is spiritually, what do you start doing? Spiritually, you start opening up the door. So once you say yes, there's something, remember, oh my gosh, sorry, a flood of ideas always happens to me, so I have to be careful and make sure I'm making sense. So one thing we have to remember, right? We are this flesh and blood that we have here. We are finite, but we have a connection to that which is infinite. So, and spiritual, there's something more than, and something greater than ourselves, right? So if I say yes, there is something spiritual that begins to happen that opens up. So number one, say yes. Number two, oh God. Number two, I'm going to say this. Oh my gosh, this might be kind of controversial. But I'm going to, and it may be a bit polarizing, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to back up. I'm going to say a little story, and then I'll say what it is. Mm-hmm. So I'm a Christian, and I come from Christianity. I'm acting like that was my mother. I came from Christianity. No, but the reason what I want to say is there's this thing between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And they'll say this. They'll say, oh man, I might get in trouble for this, but I'm still going to say it. They'll say, the Old Testament like ends. Look at my air quotes. The Old Testament ends. God didn't speak for, I don't know, X amount of thousands of years. God didn't speak. And then you have the introduction of the Christ being born. So hold on for a second. This is the part, and I know for some people it may be hard to swallow, especially from speaking with other Christians. God really didn't speak for that amount of time. Listen, there was words already written that you could go back to, so God was always speaking. So it may be in the past, but God was always speaking. What does this connect to? This? Those people who say, one foot in front of the other, gotta get up, my real alarm clock is going off. I can't worry about the alarm clock of destiny. This is how it is. I gotta get that paycheck. I don't know what else is going on. God is always speaking. Your intuitive, is always speaking. So whether you want to call it God, you want to call it intuition, it's always speaking. So either you can hear the voice in a muted tone, like a little hunch every now and then, and ignore it, or you can say, I open myself up to that which my gut, let's go to what you said, my gut says to me.
Yeah.
You know what I have my coaching class do sometimes? And because someone did this for me and this opened up a world. Let me tell you, actually, it happened to me right before I moved here when I was wrestling. And she said one simple word. This was a coach. She wasn't even coaching me. She's like an accountability partner friend. She said, well, put your hand on your gut. What does your gut say? And physically, instantly, sorry, I want to do so the camera sees it. Instantly, I knew what my gut told me and I broke because my gut was speaking. I just wasn't listening to it. So those of you who keep saying you're so busy, yes, I understand we're all busy. I'm busy right now. I don't have time for this interview. I mean, we're all busy, busy, busy. But if you just take a moment to listen to the voice, something is always speaking. Intuition is always speaking. God is always speaking. I dare not say that God has been silent or God stayed silent for thousands of years. I'm going to say this last thing. My journey is about leaving a lot of different careers and a lot of paths that led me here. Mm-hmm. There was a point that I was working. It was only 6 months. And this was at New York Presbyterian Hospital. And so I had an opportunity, which was a really good opportunity, to leave and become a consultant. Yeah. So again, leaving something very good to go into a world of uncertainty. And I was like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? There's this opportunity. I don't know what to do. And I thought God was silent because I didn't hear anything like this, right? And I didn't know about the gut at the time. I didn't know to put my hand on my gut.
Yeah.
But that evening, I'm going to tell you something that's wild, Ade. I looked out my window late that night, and I don't know if it was, I honestly don't know if it was a vision or if it was real. Mm-hmm. I saw a raccoon on my roof. A raccoon. Why is a raccoon there? Like, because I could look out my window. It's like, why is a raccoon there? To this moment, I don't know if it was real or I don't know if it was a vision, mm-hmm. but I believe it was intuition or God speaking. And if you look up, I don't want to look it up on my phone right now, but if you look up what a raccoon represents, it's like a change or something. It actually represents the answer that I was looking for, and that was to leave. It's always speaking. It is up to you to say yes. It is up to you to be quiet for a moment. And it is up to you to do a gut check or listen to the hunch and hear and feel your next step.
That's beautiful. You know, and what I'm getting from it is that there is this voice that's always speaking, but we also have to be willing to cooperate, willing to take a step back from our automatic reactions and responses, and maybe coming down from the thought stream that we're constantly attached with. And I love the idea of coming into the body, putting the hand on the gut. Because the gut, you know, the body is rooted here. So what I'm hearing you say is that God, higher power, whatever whoever believes in, whatever your belief is, it's not always that God is going to come down and say, hey, this is what so there's these messages, and we have this vast intelligence running through our body. And I love that you talked about that, because that intelligence is connected to the infinite intelligence. And if we can just put our attention here and take a moment, then it will tell us, it will give us those messages. So that's really a beautiful, practice for people to do. And also the saying yes. You know, in today's world, there's so much, we see a lot of negativity, a lot of polarity, a lot of division and things like that, a lot of resistance in a lot of ways. And it seems like part of that resistance is resisting ourselves. And you touched upon, and you know, maybe this is going back to that self-awareness and that personal development. Sometimes we are so much against ourselves, resistance, you know, not even looking at judging ourselves, condemning ourselves. You know, you talked a little bit about that obstacle of where the guilt and shame came up and you were able to persevere through that. So that's one of the, you know, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because we grow up in a society that gives us the message that we're not enough, and then tries to say, well, you need this hair product, you need this, because you're not enough, you're not good enough. And we start comparing ourselves. We care so much about what other people think about us, and we try to live up to other people's standard, you know. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So, two things, right? I first want to talk about the resistance that you spoke about, because I want everyone to know this. Acknowledge resistance when it comes and ask the resistance when you feel it. Number one, acknowledge it. So, when you notice your hand, let's say, becomes like it's by your side, but all of a sudden you notice you're clenching your hand. Maybe you notice you're clenching your jaw, maybe even your butt cheeks. You know, when resistance comes, when you feel, listen, everyone resists in different ways, right? When resistance comes, number one, begin to recognize it. Okay. So you recognize it, you acknowledge it. And I'm going to say this other thing, those of you who are listening, tell it thank you, because resistance is trying to protect you. It's that ego trying to protect you. So, and there's this whole neuralistic programming exercise around reframing that. But in brief, I'm going to tell everyone, you'll get this one for free. In brief, I'll tell everyone this. When you feel resistance, look in your body where it's coming from, acknowledge it. Thank you for coming. I know you're here to protect me. What is it that you're trying to protect me from? And then start listening to what the resistance says. Maybe it is going back to the gut and seeing, maybe it's holding on to your head. I don't know. You have to know for yourself where it's coming from. Maybe you go to that place on the body. Maybe it's the lower back. Mine a lot of times comes in my lower back. And just say, what are you trying to protect me from? And then find out. And then start to, I know this may sound crazy because all of this is about a conversation with oneself, but start to negotiate what you can do to protect yourself from that thing without getting that kind of resistance in a positive way, right? Because resistance feels so negative, but it comes from a positive place. So that's the number one thing I wanted to say about resistance, because a lot of times we just want to throw it out the door. Oh, resistance, forget about it. No, it's there to protect us. So that's number one. The other part that you're saying, you know, when the world tells us we're not enough, I got to tell you this. From second grade, I was going into second grade. I went to a Girl Scout camp, and I'm going to say its name, Camp Glen Spey. I'm sure there are great people in Camp Glen Spey, but I need to talk about it for a moment. That wasn't so great. Summer going into second grade, my mom sends me and two of my sisters to Camp Glen Spey. But the thing was, the little kids were on one side of the lake, and the big kids, my older sisters, because I'm the baby, don't forget I'm the baby. They still call me the baby 47 years later. But anyway, well, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. So my sisters were on the other side of the lake. That was my first time experiencing someone telling me I wasn't good enough. And this is how it came. It came in this form. It came in the form of my two counselors, camp counselors, the two who were in charge of our little kids group, calling me buckwheat all the time. They called me buckwheat, and it wasn't that wasn't a compliment, right? And that's all they called me. Buckwheat this, buckwheat that. And so there's a seed that they planted. Now, there was this double this other side of the coin, that in the same experience of being called buckwheat, I did make some friends, I guess. Yeah, I guess I made some friends. But also, I won a talent show. Yes, I was number one in a talent show at Camp Glen Spey in 19, whatever year that was. So what's happening here? A seed of doubt in terms of how I look. And so therefore, when we talk about we're not enough, a lot of other things would start to ensue after that, right?
Yeah.
That I would be receptive to. Even though I always had friends, this personality, honestly, I've had this personality mostly all my life, but it would shrink up at certain times and allow the opening for people to call me ugly, too dark, too black, whatever it was, nappy. And I'm just saying those things that have been said to me. So I'm just keeping stuff very real right here.
Yeah.
Hair too nappy, skin too dark, whatever it was. All those things. Ugly, definitely ugly all the time. Seeds, right? Sprouts of ugliness, sprouts of I'm not enough, sprouts of I'm not worthy, sprouts of, anything else. You can imagine what happened. And so therefore, one of the things, there were a lot of things that happened as a result, but one of the things was just going for any man that seemed to be attracted to me, because I'm like, well, I'm ugly. So my God, thank God. Oh, he thinks I'm cute. He could be one tooth in his, no offense to anyone who doesn't have any teeth, but he could have one tooth in his mouth, snag plus 500 pounds. I'm like, he thinks I'm cute. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Right. But this happened. What started to happen, and this was an evolution, Ade. This was an evolution of self. There was one day when I was looking around. I looked at my friends who had beautiful, relaxed hair. Those people who may be watching, like, what is relaxed hair? It's when you put a chemical on that burns the S out of you, that smells horrible, that has toxic. I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend anyone. I had a perm for many years, but a relaxer for many years. But I started looking at my friends. Now, when they got relaxers, their hair was just like, whoop, whoop, whoop. When I had a relaxer, my hair was like, the hairdresser had to leave on the relaxer till I was like, I think we should take it out now. My scalp is peeling off. So what does this have to do with anything? I know you're always like, what is the story behind this? The story is that I wound up thinking, wow, I won't be like that. So maybe I can begin to accept who I will be like, and that's me.
Yeah.
My hair will not swing like silky, soft, smooth after 10 minutes of a relaxer being on my hair, and even after 45 minutes with my scalp peeling off. But I'm going to be me, however that is. And it took me years, but slowly I started to say, this is it. And not in a negative way, but like, what you see is what you get. That's so like, this is it. The way you look at me right now, my poor grandmother is probably rolling over in her grave. I have a shaved head. I have a ring in my nose. I have on red lipstick and ginormous earrings. This is the way I was taught not to look. Not to look, where, just for different reasons. But I started to accept me. So when you're seeing that confidence, it's not because, oh, she thinks it's the greatest thing, but I do think that Vuyanzi is the greatest thing who Vuyanzi could be, and not because I'm compared to anyone else. And regardless of what, because if I looked at society, I'm not white or light. My eyes aren't blue. My hair isn't silky smooth. My shape is that of a curvaceous woman. And therefore, I don't look how society looks at being beautiful. But you know what, Ade? I can tell you and anyone watching, I am beautiful. Simply Not because you think it, not because anyone thinks it, but because I am me and I am operating as me. And I will never look at what society says is beautiful, because I will never reach that. I can only, and when I say only, that's not to minimize.
Yeah.
I can't be five people. I can only be one person, and that is me.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I mean, what I'm getting from that is that you began to relax that resistance that you had towards this image that you were trying to, have, kind of live up to this image. And the me, the sense I got from it is your connection with this higher power. So we all come from that. We are all part of that. So it's not just a me, it's the me that is this divine being, and it doesn't matter the hair, the this, the that. So it sounds like you've gotten in touch with that. And perhaps part of that is seeing through all the other masks, all the other layers, all the other false, things, false parts of the identity that you were not, kind of peeling that onion back and just saying, just being yourself. And the being yourself, what I got from it is not about the hair or this or that. Being yourself is being able to be as you are, which is part of that unknown. In a way, it's part of that infinite mystery. And it's where that creativity could thrive and flourish and express. And it happens, it seems, from, within you, expressing in your own unique way now, which is really beautiful to see. And I think that's what I was attracted to when I watched your Instagram videos and things like that. Is just this flow of creativity just coming up naturally, and it could be hair one day, no hair the next day, doesn't matter. so, so where should we go now on this journey of new beginnings? I mean, we talked a little bit about how some of the obstacles that people may have are their own deficiency stories and things like that. And we talked a little bit about listening to that voice. And so how does one find, how did you find your passion, what you're doing now? How did that come up for you?
Oh my gosh. I have to first say this: answering the alarm clock of destiny. That is something I'm going to say till I'm like forever. I don't even know. Blue in the face. I don't know how much that would take. I don't think it would take that long, but let's just say till the kingdom comes, like alarm clock of destiny and saying yes. So I want to say this. When you talk about igniting your passion, I say this, and you'll see where I'm going with this afterwards. I help Black leading ladies over 40 to find listen to this, purposeful, soul-connected livelihood, so they can answer their alarm clocks of destiny and live the life they truly desire. Be careful what you speak into existence, because sometimes you're like, oh, because I've done this before. But I didn't even know at the time that there would be like this overhaul of my purposeful, soul-connected livelihood. How did I ignite my passion? By starting with the one word: yes.
Mm.
I said yes 3 years ago. So what do I mean, yes, 3 years ago, to being here in Nairobi, Kenya right now? 3 years ago, when I came to this place, I came for a different, I didn't come to visit. I came to support a friend who had gone through an experience. And I just came just to support my friend. Now, let me explain this. She and I had been friends for 20 years at that point. I knew she was Kenyan, and sometimes she had lived here off and on. But in 20 years of our friendship, I kept saying, oh, one day I'll get to Kenya. One day I'm going to get to Kenya. But I never looked for a plane ticket. I never looked for anything. I never asked her, could I come visit in 20 years? But all of a sudden, something happens and instantly I have to come. I got ready to leave after 9 days. Didn't do anything touristy, by the way. We just sat at people's houses and there was a funeral and things like that. But when I got ready to leave, something happened, Ade. It felt like my heart was being ripped out of my chest. And I said, what is this? I think I want to live here. What's happening? Like, I didn't think that would happen, but it's like, what's happening? So I said yes to that. But that yes would take 3 years to evolve. So this is how it comes to this, that I got so used to, and listen to this, everyone, because all of you have some passion, and your passion is either waiting to be ignited, or for some of you waiting to be reignited. And after 3 years, 3 years when you feel that it's something you're supposed to do, but it's not happening, what happens? The spark starts to go out a little, right?
Yeah.
You get used to talking about it. I got used to telling people, one day I'm going to live in Kenya. Yeah, one day I'm going to live in Kenya. I got used to talking about it all the time. I got used to talking all around the passion, but not igniting it, not moving forward in it. Because it felt good to talk about it. I could talk very passionate about living in Kenya. Talk. Until there was one question, Ade, about 4 weeks ago, one question. And this guy said this to me. I was on this group call and I started talking about Kenya ever so passionately, the way I've practiced doing for 3 years. One question. He said, well, Vuyanzi, why aren't you in Kenya now? And I swear to you, over the course of 30 seconds, or not even probably, maybe it was 10, the following thing happened. I tried to speak in the very eloquent way I like to speak and tell you why I'm not living in Kenya. I couldn't speak it. I tried another way. My voice was cut off. And what did come out was, I don't know. I think I can live in Kenya now. And I was like, oh my God, I think I can go now. That is how that happened. So it was a question that ignited or reignited my passion to live in Kenya. Now, let me just pause for a second. Let me put this on the side for a moment and say this. In part, I was already beginning to live out my passion as a life coach, as a certified life coach, helping people. But there was something that happened spiritually over the past 6 months, and that may be in a whole different interview, Ade, hint, 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 shameless hint, where I had to heal my relationship with some different things in my life to come to this point. So when that one question was asked of me, the healing that I needed had taken place in my life, that I could no longer say the same thing that I had said over and over again about why Kenya was not working and was not going to work in my life. And I was forced to say yes, a question, why aren't you there now? So I want to ask every person that is watching this on the replay or right now, why aren't you living your passion, your desire right now? Why aren't you there now? So as you begin to ponder that question, the thing that I'm going to say is, and I'll just say this really quickly, is it got laid on my heart earlier this week to have a 3-day challenge for women just like me. Or I guess I could join too, but dudes can totally join. I tend to focus my work on women. But here's the thing. People keep saying to me, like, oh my gosh, you're so brave, you're courageous. And the one thing I say is, well, it's quite possible my frontal lobe never really grew in all the way. So you could really be talking to like a 21-year-old, but who lives in a 47-year-old body. I don't feel like I'm brave It's just that this question reignited that passion in me, that desire that I really had. So I'm hoping that this question that I ask all of you, why aren't you there now? There now will ignite something in you to say, oh my gosh, I need to say yes, but how do I ignite my passion, or how do I reignite my passion? So on September 8th, 9th, and 10th, I am having a challenge. It'll be 3 days, 3 hours. For Eastern Standard Time, it's more like lunchtime webinars. They will be recorded. You will have access to them if you can't always make it those 3 days at that time. But 3 days to ignite or to reignite your passion. If you're sitting here on this thing and you've been hearing me talk and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel something resonated. Don't just be inspired by me. Don't just move because of me. No, you may not be called to move to another continent the way I have been, but many of you are sitting and pressing snooze on your alarm clock of destiny, and you're not igniting your passion because, like me, you've become used to thinking about it, dreaming about it, but not doing anything about it. So join my challenge. Those of you who are watching, join my challenge. My link is in my bio. Wherever you're seeing this, the link is in the bio to join the challenge. I'm going to say this. It's not a free challenge. It costs $25. But I've blown $25 on a drink or two. Have you had it? Maybe you don't drink. But anyway, I've blown $25 on cocktails and been saying, like, what happened? What happened? So I'm inviting everyone to join me on this challenge. This was laid on my heart because there's some folks who need this. Sorry, I just get so happy when you ask me these questions.
And folks, I think the $25 is a deal, you know, and it's all about exchange of energy, you know, one exchange your time for something else. And but you said a lot of great things, and I love that question. Why aren't you there yet? And it sounds like you couldn't respond with the false, you know, with just kind of the untrue. Whatever was coming up, it probably just felt untrue. It just you couldn't just go there anymore, those excuses or those. And for what I got from that is it wasn't as much as answering that question right away, but just letting that question kind of just be there, like why, letting it be in the system, you know, like, because there was an openness at that moment, and that led to a lot. And also you talked about action. So, you know, a lot of people, okay, well, I'm going to take this action, but what if it's not the right thing? You know, how am I, you know, what if I make a mistake, or what if I go in this direction and I lose this, or, you know, how do I know? And some people could live in that kind of uncertainty, or that maybe uncertainty is the wrong word, but that, you know, being indecisive and not knowing where to, you know, how to make a decision.
So as you're talking, the first thing I thought about was my daughter. My daughter graduated, she's now 29. She graduated from Howard University, whoop, whoop, HU, you know. I just take that, I went to local school, but anyway. So my daughter, so she graduates like, I don't know, one of those cum laude things. Notice, I don't even really know what that is. I graduated from college, but we're just lucky we got out, right? For me. So in sixth grade, I think she was in 6th grade, she comes home and she is beside herself. She got a 72 on a test. To her, it was like failing. I looked at her and I said, oh, poor kid. She doesn't know. Her mother's been failing classes since the 6th grade. It's a wonder I got a master's degree. But let me try to let me try to soothe her. So what am I saying? I first want to speak to the people like me, whereas in science, my first D, and I say this proudly, even as a former educator, It was in science in my 6th grade class. I got a D on the report card. And I was like, oh my God. And my friend Dawn, she got a D too. And we said, we got to go to the science teacher, find out why we got Ds. So Mr. Luisi takes out his book. He opens up his grade book and he first looks at Dawn and he says, well, look, you got this average, whatever it was. It was like a 67 or 68. You got a D. And then he, looks down to my last name and he said, actually, let's say it was something like a 60. He's like, you actually failed. I gave you a D. Okay, I laugh at that. Some of you are like, I don't know what I do if I had a kid who failed. But listen to me. When you're talking about, people say, but what if I do this? And so I became conditioned in a very probably desirable way to what it felt like to fail at something. Listen to me carefully, to fail at something. And because that started when I was like 11 years old, I have tried things and I have failed. I have failed over and over again. Some people don't like that word, but I will use it because the misnomer, the misconception is that when you fail something, because what happens in school, if you fail, it's the end of the world. You have to go to summer school. What are you going to? Failure is not the end of the world. So I became conditioned to that. So I recognize that I probably have a high conditioning for risk taking. Okay.
Yeah.
But let me talk about the Imanis of the world. I call it Little Boo. Little Boo, that's my daughter. Let's talk about them who cried. I don't think she's ever failed, but the C to her was a failure. Get used to that. Feel it, embrace it, say thank you. I learned a way. What is that whole Thomas Edison thing? Oh, I learned 1,000 ways or 10,000 ways that it doesn't work. You've learned a way, and I'm not quoting it properly, but you've learned a way that it doesn't work. Get back up. Sorry to use this cliche, but I'm going to use it. Dust off and try again. I will use the word failure when I talk about myself because I want you to see that I'm a living testament of that, right? When you look at me, I don't want you to see as, oh, well, she must have gotten, when I became a teacher, the people who knew me and who knew that I barely got out of high school said, well, you became a teacher? Shoot. You're going to teach kids? You're going to teach kids? But nevertheless, what am I? I'm still a walking testament. I left kids who were just like, why would you leave? I'm a walking testament that you can fail, yet you can get up. Tell the failure, thank you for showing me a way it doesn't work. Dust yourself off, put the Band-Aids on your knees, because I have some scars because of it, and continue on. There should be apprehension. What did we say? Resistance is there to protect you. Yeah. Recognize the apprehension as protection and go back to what we said before. When you watch this on replay, rewind it. What did we say? We gave you all these steps you do when resistance comes up. I hope that makes sense.
Very much so. I mean, it sounds like there's the only way to go is to take some sort of action. That's how we learn, and we have to go through things. We have to stumble. If a child is learning to walk, they're going to fall down. We don't tell the child, no, just sit it out. Don't worry about it. You don't need to walk, so we go through those struggles. And there was something else that you said that was, and going back to your daughter, what would you tell to, a lot of it sounds like what you're teaching, what you're sharing with others is you're teaching them how they can actualize their full potential. And so what would you say to a parent that, is raising kids and how would you tell them, what advice would you give to them to help their kids actualize their own unique potential?
To almost like take that same thing that we talked about for self and really use it with your children, because you can help them to become self-aware at a young age. So it's not, why did you get this grade? No, it's not that, right? Because a lot of times, where does that come from? Where does the anger come from? It comes from our ego, right? Somehow we see the failure as a reflection of our parenting. And by the way, just so everyone knows, I have 3 kids total. Little Boo is the oldest, she's 29, but I have a set of twin boys who are 26. And, you know, they found their paths in much different ways. So it's not, why did you get that? However, in parenting, I'm going to say this, and listen, I had to learn things the hard way, and I'm still learning. How do you parent? You know, my parenting obviously looks different right now. Hell, I just left my kids in the United States. I'm here in Africa. So getting them to become aware. Yeah. What is it? You know, what is it that you struggle with? Let's talk about the teacher. Let's talk about the work. Go piece by piece. I'm going to use the word patience. But when I say patience, it's going piece by piece. What is that F telling you? I'm sure that I probably had a learning disability that was never diagnosed. That's why I could be in the back of the classroom and totally carry on a completely different conversation, because it was very boring to me. Like that sitting down thing and learning couldn't work. So it's, what is the F telling you? Get rid of your ego, parents. Get rid of your shame, parents. It's not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of something that the child is going through and needs to become aware of what it is. You can teach your child right now at a young age to start having that self-awareness, so they don't have to join Amway in their 30s to start reading books about personal development and then learn about self-awareness. You can start it now while they're still young.
Yeah, that's good advice. And, you know, especially, you know, what I've noticed with the way that many school systems are structured, it's all about competition. It's all about just getting it right, you know, and we're not really teaching the kids to, you know, look within and to, you know, really be curious, and we set everything out for them and say, this is the reality. This is the way to look at the world. You know, this is how you should perceive the world. And it sounds like, you know, what you're saying is getting the parent ego, the parent, I would say, identity out of the way. So you're honoring this spirit, you know, who is also part of the divine as well, also part of the higher power, you know. So it's kind of like, I'm not the one that is controlling my child, or even the one that's keeping my child alive in a sense, although I am being a tool that is being used to help the child along in this process. But I find I often get caught up, because I have kids too, and I could see my parents talking through me at my children, those very things that I rebelled against. Now I'm doing the same thing. And a lot of it, what's fueling it, is this sense of, it's coming from a place of fear a lot of times. Like, oh no, it has to be this way, you know. So I get scared and I dump this stuff on them, and you know, and I'm finding a lot of times what I just need to do is just leave them alone. 'Cause
you know what? Can I just say something to that, to leave them alone? I'm just going to say this quick thing that came up for me as you were talking about parenting as for adults. So my son, one of the twins was going through a rough time. He was at Springfield College in Massachusetts, and he was going through a rough time in this one semester. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like blowing the whistle. I was like calling the aunts, the emails, the uncles. Oh, Jesus, you know. But what I recognized was that if I talk to him, it's going to be crazy, because you already see my energy. So it's like, if I was talking to him, it's going to be like, what are you doing? But I started giving it to other people. And then guess who I gave it to? I gave it to, you want to say the infinite, God, the divine. And something in me was saying, he needs to go to school. His last year it was going to be his super senior year. That means 5 years. Mm-hmm. His super senior year, he didn't need to be up in Springfield, Massachusetts. He needed to be home. Mm-hmm. My ego knew already, and I wanted to say, this is what you need to do. Yeah. But I followed my intuition that said, shut up. You talk about leaving them alone. My intuition said, shut up, because your ego wants to tell him what to do, because you're the parent, right? Mm-hmm. And I shut up. Guess what happened? Guess what happened that summer when so it was around May and April, he was going through a rough time. That's around the end of the semester. And he came back home, and out of the blue, you know what he says to me? I think I need to stay home and go to school somewhere around here for my last year. Yeah. That boy graduated the next year from Purchase College. It's a SUNY school, State University of New York. He graduated that next year, not struggling with some of those things that he had struggled with in Springfield. Why? Because like you said, that moment I left it alone. Yeah. And I just want to connect that to us as parents in our lives, just as people. So even if you're watching this and you're not a parent, you have the desire to do something. Mm-hmm. Ignite it. And this is almost going to sound contradictory. When you begin to ignite it, you need to trust that the universe, you do everything you can to prepare. Do everything you can. Dig your ditches. However, it doesn't always look in the pretty nice bow that you want it to package, right? It doesn't always come that way. You may say, what are you saying? She told us to ignite our passion or to reignite our passion, but then she's telling us to leave it alone. Prepare. So when we even think about this challenge, when we think about reigniting, my passion was ignited 3 years ago. I tried to do things in my own nature and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. However, I prepared through healing, through actually what would come would be a coaching certification. Like I was digging my ditches to prepare for that thing that would come. So even when we're thinking about that, I hope that made sense. In my head, it totally did. But now that I spoke it out loud, I'm not sure it did. But sometimes leaving it alone, ignite it, and know that it won't happen in a forced way, but prepare. My quietness prepared the way for his answer as my son, that it came to me. When you're quiet, you ignite that thing, you know what it is, and start preparing so that answer will come with ease. That's the word that's coming to me, with ease. When we talk about reigniting your passion in that challenge, it's not hard. Like we got to do it hard and ignite the passion in your hearts. That's not what it is. It is with ease.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I've tried the like being the drill sergeant. It has to. I'm gonna, like I'm playing a sport or something. I'm just gonna muscle my way through this, and it doesn't seem to work. And what I got from what you said is the importance of setting your intention. So you kind of set your GPS, and then you go on your journey. And sometimes as you're traveling, you may have to get off and go for a restroom break. You may have to get off, get some food, but the GPS is it's locked, it's set, you're on the journey. And the voice will tell you if you get too far off, like if you now start going to the casinos or something, and you're like, okay, well, I spent about a week here. Maybe I should get a little bit off of the journey. So, that made a lot of sense to me. And I think that's valuable advice, and obviously it's from everything you're saying. Why the reason it's resonating so much for me is because you've lived this and you've gone through this, and you're speaking from, your experience, and it's really beautiful. Now we're up on the we're about a hour and 15 minutes into it, but
Oh my God,
I
time went so fast.
yeah, there was a few things, just a couple more things I wanted to ask. One thing is I love that you seem to have this sense of humor, and you seem not to take yourself too seriously. That might be just the way I'm perceiving it, so you correct me if I'm wrong, but can you speak on that?
Yes, I do have a sense of humor circa 1973. It's been here. First being a surprise to a 43-year-old woman. Surprise, you can still get pregnant, to, to where we are now. In 73, that was old, right? And I don't take myself seriously, but you know what? This goes back to my awareness of self, and that becoming aware of who I wasn't going to be, right? I couldn't be so serious and like this doesn't feel natural at all, But this laughing and smiling, this is just how it is, leaning into who I am. Like I've tried those serious ways, but again, I tried to be someone else,
Yes.
and it wasn't me. So I make people laugh. I've been making people laugh for forever. I'm my quirky self, I've been like I have friends who are like, oh Jesus, how did I become friends with you? Because I'm just who I am. I have dance parties. I had a dance party before I left New York. It was, by the way, when I say dance party, it was me playing Mary J. Blige by myself in the apartment on a live. You can scroll through my page and see me dancing. And so it looks really crazy because Facebook like mutes out half of the music. So it looks
Oh,
like
yeah.
I'm doing this by myself to nothing with a crown on my head nonetheless. So it's just leaning into, like, you can't take yourself so seriously. I take life seriously, and I can look and find the humor nearly anywhere. Sometimes I have to stop myself from saying something because I know people will take it inappropriately. Like when I see something and I'm like, okay. You see the joke, but everyone around you is really serious. So
Yeah.
we'll be serious for a moment, But it's just leaning into who I am. Know who you are. Know who
Yeah.
you are. I see sometimes some people, oh God, it just came to me, Ade, how some people are seen so hemmed up and so tight. You ever met a person who's tightly round, right? That is, let's go back to that word again, resistance.
Mm.
That is protection against something. No, everyone may not have my sense of humor and my personality. But for those of you, this is coming to me, for those of you who are so tightly wound, you're protecting yourself, right? Because it comes back to me, I protected myself from being called buckwheat and ugly and too dark or whatever it was. And so there was always that thing inside of me. So I may laugh, but certain people
Mhm.
I'd shy away from because maybe they might call me that.
Yes.
But it's beginning to melt away that resistance so you can begin to unlock, say yes. It comes back. It always goes back around to the same thing. Say, loosen that thing up. Recognize what it is, right? It's that protection. Maybe you were made fun of. And I'm talking to whomever's listening and whoever's watching. Maybe you were made fun of. Maybe you came from an abusive household. Maybe you came from something that now as an adult, you find yourself like this. Well, number one, we know living like this is dis-ease and it will cause disease in your life, right? The physical manifestation does not come from nothing. Let me make sure I say that to everyone watching. The physical manifestation does not come from nothing. It comes from something that is going on in our bodies.
Yeah.
So I'm like this because I said yes to being me. If today somebody wants to call me ugly, too dark, spook, whatever it, buckwheat, I give 0 Fs. I won't say the word, but I literally give 0 Fs. I don't care. Been there, done that. What else you got?
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. It's to be able to have a balance, equilibrium, no matter if someone says something negative about you or if someone says something positive about you, you're still, because that same person may say something positive one day, and if you're seeking your sense of self, sense of good enough from other people. If they say the positive, then oh, okay, I'm okay. But then if that same person says, no, you're an idiot, then you're crushed. Oh no. And and I'm talking from my own experience. I know that resistance. I get it in the diaphragm area, like in the solar plex. I get a clenching, and I know, I may be having a one-on-one and we're just having a regular conversation, but something about that person is triggering some insecurity within me, and this fear of, oh my gosh, maybe I'll be found out. They'll see who I really am, and they'll see I'm this not good enough image that I have of myself. So I can't let them see that. And that protective, that I can't, was saying the no, is causing the, increase in the resistance, and then the resistance of, oh, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? Now I'm resisting my own resistance. And then you get like a dog chasing its tail. Then it's like you're in fight, flight, or freeze. And now it's just like I need to just somehow make it out of this situation. And that could be exhausting. So, and it could be different from one person to the next person, always holding it together. Okay, with this person, I have to be this way. With this person, I have to be that way. You get home, your jaw hurts from having a fake smile, and like your jaw literally hurts. Your whole face hurts because you have to shake and smile the whole time because you're trying to keep them away, and I'm just talking, this is my experience with it. And I don't feel like, I think you're further along on that journey of that development that I am. I'm starting to like really be like really start, as it's a gradual process. And sometimes we make some progress and we feel it, and then the stuff comes up as it should,
Yes.
as consciousness expands and we see more and more of the stuff comes to the surface, it can feel quite difficult because we're seeing more, and then but we get to, I look at it as this journey to wholeness. So we get to relate to these different aspects of ourselves, make friends with it, and it sounds like that's what you've been, experiencing. Yeah.
Just now, Ade, I just wanted to say this. Again, we spoke about it in the beginning, but you brought it up, right? That stuff comes up. And I want to say this because I say it to my coaching clients. I say, you're embarking on a journey, right? To better yourself. But as you better yourself, stuff is going to come up even with others, because others have been used to relating to you in the space that you have been living in. And when you begin to grow, that's going to have a ripple effect, and it's going to impact those around you, especially those who are around you the most. So I even want to say again, even when we talk about the 3-day Ignite Your Passion Challenge, it's called a challenge for a reason.
Yeah.
Because S is going to come up. You're talking about igniting something. You try to contain a fire, someone's either the fire can be consuming, right? It can be consuming, or you can use it to help. I turn on the fire here to cook something, but if I'm unaware and I turn it on, I could get burned by that very same fire. So just know that even in the 3-day challenge, stuff is going to come up. It comes up for you, and thus the effect is it will come up for people around you. The journey may be yours, but inevitably it impacts those. Sometimes, listen, sometimes it ain't pretty.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is. It is what it is, and that's what I can say.
Yeah. And there's no need if someone else, if your change is triggering someone else, there's no need for you to carry the guilt and shame of, because that just keeps us kind of stuck at a lower vibration. And one of the other, so the one question that before we begin to close is, what does success look like to you?
Peace. So number one is peace. Peace, because that is just, I know I've achieved a certain level of success, even if I'm not exactly where I want to be. Like right now, I'm going to say at this moment, I count myself as successful. But you may say, how so? You just got there. Because I have peace, because I know that I am in the space that I'm supposed to be in. So physically, we can look at it from an Airbnb standpoint. I'm in an Airbnb for a while. But when I say space, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally,
Mhm.
it's not perfect, but it's peace. There's this Bible verse that says, he will keep you in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on him. Now, again, whose mind is stayed on him. Well, what does that mean, right? Him being the source, right? We keep going back to that, the source of infinite intelligence, the source of divine God intuition stayed on me, right? Peace in the midst of the storm. There's still I'm in an Airbnb. I don't know where I'm going at this moment when it ends on September 30th, right? When my reservation ends. But I have peace. So that's what I know in terms of that. And there's so much around that, but peace is that umbrella. Peace is that umbrella. I'm going to say the next word is abundance.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm successful when I'm being abundant. And this is what I mean. I'll say it really short. 2020, I went into it with one word, and the word was abundance. Now, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, we gonna get it. But in turn, I opened myself up to what abundance means in terms of accepting of love, opening my heart. So when I'm living in abundance, when I'm living in a limitless world, one area of abundance that I'm learning, and fingers crossed, you're going to see what I say in a moment, is that I used to say this. If someone said, oh, because I'm a person who lives a single life, when my husband signs the papers, I'll be officially divorced. I signed my divorce papers a long time ago, but there's a reason why I'm going here. That a person would say, oh, well, what about that special someone? And I would say this, you know what? You know who my boyfriend is? My boyfriend is my business. So it's my coaching business. And one day I had a revelation. I was listening to this book, Marianne Williamson. Oh, I forgot what the book is called. But anyway, she said something and it prompted this thought. Do you think that your heart isn't capable of loving your business and a man? Do you think is your belief so limited that you think you only have space for one love in your life? And so success, when I recognize that there's abundance in my life, I first look at my heart and I say, my heart is full of love. Like when I speak to you in love. When I speak to whomever will watch this, I can look and I can say, like, I love you. Why? She doesn't even know who we are, because I speak to that thing that is inside of you. the infinite thing that is inside of you that maybe many of you watching don't even recognize what it is yet. But there is love that lives inside of you. So I speak to you in love. I speak to you in peace. I speak to you with abundance. And I say, with that abundance, I know that I'm living in a place of success. I know that I live in a place of abundance and I live in a place of peace. That's what I say. I know I get really emotional, but it's because I am overflowing with love.
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful. You tied everything together very nicely. You know, the peace and what I got from what you said is that this peace is within us. You know, that success. A lot of what this conversation has been about, it hasn't been about achieving it on the outside. It's been about kind of removing the layers, or you know, that seem to blind us from who we really are. You know, and that's one of the, I think, the first pillars that you talk about. You know, in your teaching, is who we are. I think the other one is faith and empowerment. You know, so that faith, and it's a faith that I can see you are deeply connected with. You know, from your direct experience to that source, and also that seeing that in others, so that abundance is when we are connected to that infinite source, and that love, that joy, that happiness, everything is flowing not to really the other, but flowing to yourselves, as you're seeing yourself in the other, that divine in the other. So this flow is, and that, you know, that's a beautiful description of success. And I think the work that you do is so valuable, because we need more of this. And I think we are going through a shift in the world where these teachings and this sort of thing that you're providing is, I think we are shifting from living from a place of power, you know, having power over someone else, polarity, you know, conflict, to more of a place of cooperation, of compassion, of love. And it's a beautiful thing. We're starting to see, just like how when the person asked, "Why aren't you there yet?" you couldn't speak those words. That structure that you had before wouldn't work. And now we see in this world that we're living in now, these old structures are crumbling. They're no longer working. That collective awareness, everything is coming to light, and it's just not working in the same way. So we're stumbling along a little bit, like the child learning to walk, as we're finding our way to, you know, kind of rebuild and on that foundation, you know, on this foundation that you've talked about. And so before we end, is there any message you'd like to leave our viewers, or anything that you feel like you didn't get a chance to talk about that you would have liked to discuss?
No, I just want to put a pretty bow on it. I don't know why I want to put a pretty bow on it, because I really can't wrap a gift worth. But in the spiritual world, I want to put a pretty bow on it. You know, I just want to say this. I'm talking about this 3-day challenge because I feel very strongly about it. This was impressed upon my heart. I didn't think I was going to do something this soon after arriving here, but I am. And I keep seeing the messages that come across in the different lives I've done. You're brave, you're courageous, you're doing what so many of us want to do, but we can't do. You're inspirational. I'm so glad. Thank you. However, I just want to impress upon people to be propelled. Listen, maybe it's not my 3-day challenge that you want to use to ignite your passion. Maybe it's someone else's. That's fine. But I want to impress upon your heart that that there is room. There is room for your yes. There is room for the life that you truly desire. I speak to you from a very surreal place today, very surreal, that I could live in a space of being happy, being joyful. My name, Vuyanzi, means in certain translations, happiness, joy, loved one, love. I'm living in it all. And I'll ask all of you to make the decision to say yes to yourself and ignite your passion too. I know that may sound very commercially, but I'm speaking the truth. That's just what I speak. That's how it is. Thank you
No, it's
so much. Thank you to you, Ade, for even entrusting me to give me this opportunity. This is the first time you ever had a conversation, but you entrusted me. You said yes to me. And so, blessings. I know this is going to sound so cliche, but I mean the next thing that I say. May blessings be upon you for allowing me to pour out in your space, in your area, for entrusting me. May that same overflow reach back to you, and may you have it too from the place in which you sit. Thank you so much.
oh, thank you. I deeply appreciate that. And it goes both ways. You had to trust me as well and say yes to me as well.